guys, and welcome to episode 29 of Notable Needlework. I am Kate, Notable Needle, N-O-T-E-A-B-L-E, on Ravelry, on Plurk, and on Twitter. It is September 10th, 2011. My hair is still wet, as usual. And today is the first meeting of the year for my chapter of DAR. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I will start out with knitting. I have 5 more days to finish my shawl for Camp Loopy, and I may actually do it on time. No, I'm not actually concerned with finishing it on time. This past week, I got virtually no knitting time because of clinicals. I'll talk about that a little later, but my day was pretty much wake up super early, go to the hospital, come home, and immediately fall asleep. So, here is my ginormous shawl. I'm trying to show half, and I don't have a long enough needle to really show half well. So I started out with 55 grams of the Lane Bergosia, the Barofa cash wool. When I got to 26 grams, I started doing the eyelet border. Determined that I would have had to make the border, like 1.5 feet long. So I added in more stockinette for 5 grams. So when I started this eyelet border, I had 19 grams left. Right now I have 15. So this border took me 2 grams. This one took me 4. So I do have more wool than the 800 yards that I need for the project, which is fortunate because I may actually wind up needing it. But I just finished another little eyelet section like this one. I'm planning on knitting in stockinette for about the same length. I didn't measure how much this is, but I'd say like 2.5 to 3 inches of stockinette, and then I'm going to start the border, and I think that should use up my wool. I'm actually surprised at how quickly I was able to do the border section, because I think I did this entire eyelet section yesterday. Yeah, I did it entirely yesterday. I was scared that I was going to run out of beads. So I went to Joann's to look for more of the beads, because obviously if I've used up almost the entire vial on these 2 rows, I'm going to need an entire second vial to do the border, because instead of 4 beads I'm planning on doing 8, although it may wind up being 6. So I went to Joann's to look for the beads, and they were completely out. They had an entire section of the wall filled with these little vials of the different color beads. They had the red seed beads, but they didn't have the red 6/0 beads. That was the only one that was sold out, or had any missing. So I'm going to be checking either today or tomorrow and seeing if they magically restocked. If they didn't, I think Will and I decided that I'm gonna do, they have a pretty gold bead that I would probably do for the border. And I don't think it would look too odd. I think if I ran out of beads in the middle of this one and then did like a couple gold, it would look funny. I'm really hoping that they have the red beads back in stock though, because they look really pretty against the red yarn. But no matter what, I'll make it work. And since this week I only have 4 hours a day in the lab and a butt ton of lectures, I'm gonna get a bunch of knitting time, which I'm really excited about. So I will get this done, and I'm super excited to get it done. Not gonna lie, really excited to have this be done, and be done with Camp Loopy. Not that I didn't enjoy Camp Loopy, but 800 yards is a lot. And after watching Becky with her project when she was here, I really wish I had bought worsted weight yarn, but you know, I was getting the most yardage out of my buck, and it worked out for the best. This thing is going to be huge, though. I'm planning on having it be my grandmother's Christmas present, but I may be second guessing that depending on how large it blocks out, because she's only about 5 feet tall. Granted, it's probably going to be like turned into a blanket on one of her couches, but it will engulf her if it's as big as I think it is. I can't stretch it out big enough to see because it's I think 47-inch needles, so not even close to be able to stretch it out. Not even close to stretch out half of it. So we'll see how big that is. My other projects that I have going have not received much love, but I will show them anyway. So this is my Plurk Podcaster Challenge hat. It's the Hermione's cable and eyelet hat. And I finished the brim, and I've gotten into the body a little bit. So you can start to see the eyelets. There'll be a set of 3 diagonal eyelets, and then the cable, and then I think a plain stockinette rib row, a couple rows, and then just doing it over with the eyelets, cable, plain, eyelets, cable, rib. So it's coming along. It is a fast knit. I would really say that I've only spent about an hour knitting on this total this week. Most of it has just been with the shawl of death. But I will get it done, and I am very excited about that. The matching gloves for the Miss Ellie knit along did not get any love. I have not cast on the hat for Becky's knit along. I did cast on the Solka shawlette for the Domesticated Darling knit along, because I was concerned that I would not finish the eyelet border, and so I wanted something pretty simple to be able to knit on during the DAR meeting today, because beading requires more of my attention than I feel comfortable giving it. So I think I'm just about ready to do the cable on this next row. So I just set it up so far, and it's quick. I think I got this all set up in, I don't know, like 20 minutes this morning. Oh, and I actually tried winding this into a center pull ball. Did not work. So I actually have my first actual ball of yarn. I just wind everything into center pull balls. But this one, since it is a bulky yarn, I just made it into a ball. And I like it. I feel like a legitimate knitter now because I have a ball of yarn and not just the center pull ball. Yeah, I think that's it for knitting. That's kind of sad. This week has just been incredibly crazy. But in a good way. So we had the holiday on Monday. And I somehow wound up having more work on Monday than I usually do. But I got caught up with my lectures and everything, which was evidently a good thing because we had our first test for pathophysiology on Tuesday, and we were supposed to have a lecture afterwards. and it just sort of didn't happen. So I'm glad that I went over it by myself beforehand. But I really like the way that they do the tests in nursing school. I think every single test is on the computer, and so you immediately get your results after you're done. Excuse me. So I got a 96 on my pathophysiology exam, which I'm very excited about. And that was it for my actual classes this week. The majority of my week was taken up by clinicals. It was my first week in the hospital. So we went up on Tuesday afternoon and got to look around the hospital some more, got our patient's chart. This first week they let us partner up. So we had 2 students to a patient. And we got to meet our patient, introduce ourselves, familiarize ourselves with their history and their medical chart and all that. And then that night we had to write up a summary for patient care, which just basically is showing that you've read the chart and you're familiar with the medications that the patient is on and the disease process that the patient has. So it's more, it takes more time than you would expect to do that paperwork. So I worked on that from about 4 till about 9. Went to sleep. Woke up at 4:30. Went down to the hospital. I had to be there at 6:30, but I was concerned that I didn't 100% remember how to get to our wing of the hospital. Wound up not having a problem, so I was there at 6. Without my knitting, of course. But our two clinical days were Wednesday and Thursday, and we were there from 6:30 to 3:30, or on Thursday, as it turned out, 6:30 to about 5:15. But not all of that was patient care. So I took care of, my partner and I took care of our one patient on Wednesday, but since he was not as dependent as other patients were, he could get up essentially by himself, he could take a shower by himself, all that. So whenever he was doing things like that and did not want us in the room, we got to take care of every single other patient on the floor. So we would take vitals, assist our other classmates with care, especially when some of their patients were larger. You need more than 2 people to help move a patient that's, say, 350 pounds, and to bathe them, and all of that. So it was a very long day. My feet are evidently used to me being on them all day, which is nice because my feet did not hurt nearly as much as the rest of my classmates, which I'm thankful for. Thursday, got there in the morning, found out that we had a new patient, not because anything happened to ours. Our patient was going in for a procedure and would be gone for the majority of the day. I think I mentioned this last time, but we are on the general medical floor, so we have patients with pretty much everything but cancer and very serious cardiac conditions. We have the medical mysteries, COPD, emphysema, renal failure, other miscellaneous medical conditions. One of the very fun things that we got to do was doing patient histories. And my professor teaches a lot. She seems like a very difficult woman, but I can appreciate the fact that she is teaching us much more than many of the other clinical groups are. And I understand teachers like that, so I don't take offense to some of her less than orthodox teaching methods. And, she understands that I understand. So, when my patient was taking a nap, she told me to take a review of systems, which is going through all of the systems in the body and asking about patient history, family history, anything of note about lung function, heart function, whether they've had any surgeries, whether they have any pain now, what that pain feels like, etc. She had me do a review of systems on a patient who only spoke Spanish because she knew that I spoke Spanish. And she told me that she was a very interesting patient. And after I did her review of systems, I could not figure out why my professor had told me that she was an interesting patient. And other than shortness of breath, there was really nothing wrong with the patient. So I asked my professor, what makes you think that this is an interesting patient? She said, did you ask her why she's in the hospital? And I said, no. She said, go ask her. It turns out that in certain countries, in South America and Central America, if you do not properly cook certain meats, you can get infected with parasites. And in certain cases, these parasites can spread to other body systems, not just your digestive system, including your lungs and your brain. I'll leave it at that. I did get to see patient scans, which was actually really cool. The patient has completely recovered at this point, and I'm very thankful for that. So I got to just think it was cool instead of slightly horrifying. But takeaway lesson: cook your meat. Cook it all the way through. It was very interesting. I do need to practice my Spanish more. Once I was in there for a couple minutes with the patient, I got it back, but it'd be nice to not look like a complete and utter idiot for the first 30 seconds that you're talking with someone because you can't remember how sentences are supposed to be structured. But I got it back and we were talking about everything after that. But that first day was interesting. Thursday we went in and I actually only wound up taking care of one patient that day because the patient demanded our full attention. Not that he was, not in a bad way, but he was very much unable to perform many functions by himself. So, helping with meals, bathing, all that, changing bedding, And, of course, waiting for almost an hour for his breakfast and lunch to get there after we called. When a patient is unable to help themselves with meals and or has trouble swallowing, they're put on what's called aspiration precautions. So that means that you have to help them with their meals. You can't leave them alone with their food because there's a chance that they could breathe in their food instead of swallowing it, which can cause pneumonia and or choking. You can only serve certain types of food, and any liquids have to be thickened because it's easier for you to swallow a thickened liquid like honey rather than water. So it took up most of the day, but he was a very sweet man. He reminded me a lot of my father, which I didn't cry that day. I only cried once on Wednesday, and contrary to everyone in my classmates' belief, it was not because anyone yelled at me. No one yelled at me. I was taking vitals on a patient that was not my patient, who was going in to have abdominal surgery, and they asked me if I was going to be there with them during the surgery, and obviously I had to say that I wouldn't be there, and they just looked heartbroken, and I had to leave the room, and yeah, I was crying in the hall. But I didn't cry on Thursday. I was actually really surprised by that because it was... Granted, the disease process was not the same as my father, but it was sort of surreal and reminded me a lot of that experience. But actually being able to do something, I think, made it better for me. So, yeah, I am loving it. I don't know why I'm tired right now. I've been waking up at 4:30 because I set my alarm for 2 days for 4:30, and now my body has adjusted to that time. Which I'm not really enjoying right now. But anyways, so that was my week in nursing, and then yesterday I spent most of the day either in open lab or getting Will's tires fixed. I got to work on my knitting a little bit there, but not as much as I would have liked. But he had a nail in his tire, so we had to go fix that. So I just have 2 more things, and whew, why is it bright outside? One of them is DAR. Yay, DAR. I have my little DAR pin. I don't have the fancy ribbon with the insignia and the ancestor bars and all that yet because I can't afford them. As much as I want to pay about $300 for all of the pins, that's not even close to being an option. But DAR, if you are not familiar, is Daughters of the American Revolution. All of the members are directly descended from a patriot in the Revolutionary War. Whether it's someone who directly fought, someone who aided the United States, even Native Americans who helped, French, Canadians that helped, anyone who helped, you are eligible to be a member. And my mother was a member, so I got in pretty easily. I only had to prove that, I'm her daughter. And I very much enjoy it. Sorry, there's sun, bouncing off one of the cars in the parking lot. Yeah, I'm just gonna stay like this. It's it is a very rewarding society. I don't know if we're society. Wait, National... Yeah, National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. So I couldn't remember what NS stood for. We have a lot of different projects, both serving veterans, promoting education and literacy, promoting citizenship, whether that's people doing more in their communities or people becoming U.S. citizens. This is really aggravating. Helping out in natural disasters. We have several schools, especially in the South, that we sponsor. One of them is here in Alabama. It's the Kate Duncan Smith School. Yeah, this is really annoying. Okay. But there's a lot of different ways that we try to help. And so I have been nominated, elected, appointed, I guess would be the most correct word, to be the junior membership chair for our chapter. I'm just going to stare at you and be blind and completely washed out because my hand actually hurts from keeping it at that level. Okay, I have been appointed to be the junior membership chair of our chapter, which means that I am trying to get more junior members to come and stay in our chapter. Junior member is any woman from the ages of 18 to 36. So I am obviously a junior. The main problems that junior members tend to face are thinking that it's a society of little old ladies, which it's not. Not anymore. We're a lot more involved in service than in the past. Another one of the problems is many of the women from ages 18 to 36 are young mothers, they're working, they're college students. We don't have time. So one of the things that I'm trying to help with is coming up with some form of childcare during the meetings. We meet on Saturdays, which is already doing better than most chapters tend to meet during the week, especially during lunch, which is not an option for students, not an option for pretty much anyone who works. So having the meetings on Saturdays helps a lot for that, but especially if you have school-age children, you then have to worry about finding a babysitter. What I'm trying to do is find either if some members have teenage children who would be willing to look after them if we were to hire someone, if we were to contact our brother SAR, which is Sons of the American Revolution chapter, and see if they could rig something up for us, just so that those members with children don't feel like they can't come. So yeah, I'm just gonna be looking for people to help me out with that today, and I have to actually write up what I'm gonna say because I don't want to start blathering in front of our 100 plus members. But I'm looking forward to that, and it will hopefully be a good year. I think we're planning on having quite a few projects this year, and I'm looking forward to that. Last year we adopted a squadron? I think it was a squadron. Yeah, of Special Forces soldiers. And we made helmet liners for them. And after we had done that, we found out that quite a few of the wives of those soldiers were pregnant or had small children, and so we made a whole bunch of baby blankets for them. So I get to use my knitting and crocheting skills for good. Not that I don't already, but it's nice to have another place for those to go. So yeah, I think that's about it. I may or may not take a nap before the meeting today, so I don't seem as tired as I evidently feel. But I hope that you all are having a good week, that you are finished or are close to finishing your Camp Loopy project if you are in Camp Loopy. And if you are knitting along with the Hermione's eyelet and lace, no, cable and eyelet hat, that everything is going well. And be sure to check out the Ravelry group. And if you're watching this on iTunes, the blog is at notableneedlework.blogspot.com. And there's a Ravelry group called Notable Needlework Podcast. And you should come and join and say hi and post pictures for the knit along. Oh, I did have one other thing that I was not going to forget because I completely forgot last week. I have stitch markers up in my shop. Finally. I'm trying to find one of each set to show you. Okay. Maybe. Yes, there we go. Why did I think there were 5? Because there are 5. Okay, there are 5 different sets. 3 of them are on copper wires, which I think look really cool and different. And then I have 2 sets that are on the stainless steel. So the first of the copper are, let's see if it wants to focus, these turquoise beads. Do you want to focus? Maybe? No. That sucks. There are better pictures on Etsy, and it's a set of 8 stitch markers. All of them except for one are sets of 8. I can kind of see them. But they're little turquoise beads, and I think they're pretty. The second set of the turquoise ones, and these ones, I feel like they don't photograph as well as I want them to. There, that's close to the colors. They're, I don't remember what they're called, but they've got all sorts of different colors depending on how the light hits them. It almost looks like if there is oil on your driveway and then it rains, or there's water, that oil slick rainbow. Yeah. Anyways, I like them. I think they're pretty. Yeah, the colors for the photos on Etsy, I pretty much either got the colors or I got clear, sharp details. I did not get both, which is a shame. The last set of the copper stitch markers, there's only 7 in this set, and so it has a lower price, obviously. And they're just cute little shades of pink and purple beads. And they're nice classic stitch markers. I really wish these would focus, because that would be cool. but most of the photos on Etsy show the detail a little bit better. And then these two sets are the stainless steel, and one of them has gotten all caught up. Okay. So these I always want to call my Jackson Pollock beads because they're blue and green beads with, can you see that? With black, like, splotches of paint. There, that sort of shows it. So obviously they are different from bead to bead, but I like them and I think they're cool, and it's always neat that they're not always going to be identical. I think they're pretty. The last set of stitch markers are these wooden beads, and I like them, and I really wish that they were showing up better right now. But they're these cute wooden beads that don't want to show up, with turquoise seed beads, like teal, turquoisey, blue seed beads in between. So again, all of those are up on the shop on Etsy. If you're watching this from a blog, there is a sidebar on the right that has a link to the Etsy shop, and with the photos are much better on Etsy than they're showing up on my webcam. I don't really know why. Oh, now the sun moved and it's not shining in my eyes. So that is about it. I am glad that you stuck around this long, and I hope that you have a good week and that you get knitting time that I will desperately be needing to finish my Camp Loopy project. Go check out the stitch markers, check out the Ravelry group, be knitting along if you're not already, and have a good weekend and a good next week. Bye guys.